Welcome to CreatureGeek, the special effects makeup podcast. From the fan and pro perspective, I am Len Peralta.
And I am Take Two, Frank Ippolito.
And we have an incredible guest on tonight. If you went to go see Captain America Civil War this past weekend, you definitely saw the work of today's guest. In fact, if you've been to a number of blockbusters like Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Amazing Spider-Man, Hellboy, or Tron Legacy, you've seen his work and the work of his company, Ironhead Studios, on the big screen. Since 2007, he's been the driving creative force in specialty costume and creature design, and we are so pleased. In fact, I am so geeked to have him on the show. Would you please welcome to CreatureGeek, Mr. Jose Fernandez? Yay! Oh my gosh.
Are you responsible for the bat nipples? Because everybody keeps asking that.
Actually, yes.
You sculpted those nipples.
Yeah, I
that was somebody else's design though. You didn't. That wasn't your choice.
I kind of actually need to take a little ownership. Not where it actually went, but where it started. And my thought process back then was more like Romanesque armor. So the way Romans had very much anatomy, and I think they even had nipples. So I suggested to the designer, what if we implied them? And he was all over it. But I think the first time out was kind of cool and kind of like, what? Nipples? But then the second time around, the director kind of took it to another level and wanted me to sharpen them, circle them. And it just got fetish, which it was out of my control. It just
turned into whips and chains. And
and they wanted nipples on Batgirl.
What?
And I'm like, you guys are insane. And they said, no, we want nipples on her as well.
Yeah, they want gender equality. If the guys can have nipples, the girls can too, right?
So I sculpted them for her. And when they came in, they couldn't even look at it. They were like, get them off. So it was pretty fun. It was on for a minute, and then we took them off. But yeah, I kind of, yes.
So this is your public apology to everybody.
I'm not apologizing for anything. The original concept was all right. Where they took them, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, now that we got the shenanigans out of the way.
Yeah, let's back up for a second here. We started it off with bat nipples, but let me back up here, because as the fan of the show, as the self-proclaimed fan of the show, I just have to say I am totally geeking out to have you here. We ran into you. I was introduced to your work at Monsterpalooza.
Oh, yeah.
And that was your very first show. You haven't gone to any other show to promote your work, so it was a real pleasure to see all this stuff. And so going up to see Ironhead Studios, I remember walking up and looking at all these incredible cowls. You had the Loki cowl, you had the Batman cowl, the Batman versus Super.
Come on,
what was that?
Some of them were helmets. They weren't cowls.
They're, you know,
I
I
mean, you got to correct that, because I mean, you know.
Well, you know what I'm saying. There was all.
Got a cowl, he's got a helmet. Yeah.
Yeah, the helmets. They're all kinds of stuff. I mean, Black Panther was there, Captain America. Yeah. So I turned to Frank and I just said, "Hey, so because at that time I didn't know what Ironhead was." I said, so what are these like? Do these guys make the stuff and they're like replicas? He's like, no, these are the real ones, which then like blew my mind, because then I started going down the rabbit hole and looking at everything you did, and you've pretty much worked on everything.
That's awesome.
That I love. Yes, right. As a fan, I looked at your resume and I'm like, oh my gosh, you did the Batwoman. The Catwoman. Michelle Pfeiffer suit, which is incredible. So let's talk a little bit about Ironhead. Let's get your name out there, because I don't think enough people know who you are. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Well, you guys just had the tested video that has done exceptionally well. I think you cracked like 1 million views on that just today.
Pretty insane.
And I think what Len was saying is kind of indicative of, I don't know, maybe a problem, something I was ranting about a couple episodes ago, that people don't know who the hell you are. And for Len to say, "Oh, is this a replica company?" It's like, no, dummy. Like these, like,
well, no, and it's funny. Most of my career early on, well, when my first break was in costume was Catwoman. I got in the door. Everybody was trying to get into that film. I saw the first Batman film, and everybody, like me, like everybody, was just insane about it. So in the second, that was done in England. So the second one came to the States, and everybody knew it, but nobody knew how to get in for an interview. And I was trying like everybody else. Anybody who knew wouldn't tell anybody, because everybody wanted the job.
Right.
So somebody did call me for an interview to come in the Bat Shop, and I was all in. they told me over the phone I would not be sculpting Batman. I said, that's okay. I want to get in the door. I knew that was important. So they wanted somebody who could sculpt skin texture for Dan DeVito's fat suit. I said, yeah, whatever you need. So I got in the door. I was hired after my interview, which blew my mind because there was so many amazing artists who had interviewed and didn't get the job. So later I found out the reason I got the job is I didn't have any severed heads in my portfolio. It was a lady, Vin Burnham, who was running the shop. It was Bob Ringwood who was designing. She was the co-designing. And the only reason I got the job is because I didn't have any gore, which was fine with me. So I got in the door. And then about a month or two in, I was detailing stuff. And all of a sudden this project of Catwoman came up and nobody was available. Steve was sculpting the suit, Steve Wang, and that other artist there. So I raised my hand, so I'd love to do it. And everybody just didn't take me seriously, but I kept being persistent. So finally they allowed me to give it a shot. And I put all my experience into it and was able to nail it. So I got to do her cowl, which to me is still one of my personal favorites. And seeing it on screen was something else. The first time you get to see her. And I ended up redoing the bat cowl because after fitting, it didn't fit Keaton. So I had to redo it. So I ended up doing Batman's cowl and Catwoman, and seeing it in Groman's Chinese full screen was pretty amazing to me. That was a huge experience. That was my first taste of special costume. And after that, I was like, yeah, I like this. And eventually was brought back on the next Batman film to do the entire suit head to toe for, I think it was Val Kilmer.
Yeah, Batman Forever.
Yeah, and I ended up bringing a new process, the finishing process, which hadn't been done at that point, to the degree. So those suits were super slick and kind of a set a standard for a while. It stood for a while, but eventually, other people came in, which is great, set new bars. And we've been kind of going ping-ponging back and forth with, other companies doing amazing work. And then I would come back and, okay, how about this? And then they come back, how about that? So the whole genre, the whole thing has been elevated and it keeps getting going. It's fun to be a part of.
So you mentioned Bob Ringwood. You've gotten to work with people like Colleen Atwood and all these huge, great designers.
Huge. That's where I learned everything. I mean, when I first started doing costume, I used to make my own costumes like a lot of people as kids. Halloween was the biggest day of the year because but it took a year for that one day and then it was over. But I used to always alter my clothes, make costumes, and I was a sculptor. So it was that day or that time, everything merged. Like I'm a sculptor and I love wardrobe, and somehow I was like, oh, this is a good fit. Because before then I wasn't thinking of costume, I was thinking fashion or creatures, but then somehow it made more sense to do this world. And after a few shows, it became like it just worked. I was doing, then I get to do X-Men, a Daredevil, all these films started falling into place, and so it just became my career path for the last, 18 years or so.
I mentioned at the top of the show Captain America: Civil War, which just came out this past weekend. I know you worked on Black Panther. I know you worked on Captain America. What other suits did you get to work on and get hands on?
On Civil War, only Black Panther. I did Captain America it's sad to say it's a little bit of a blur. Some of my career, I worked on a Captain America. I don't remember which one it was for. I did a helmet at some point, but on the last film, Civil War, we ended up getting a call to do Black Panther, and that was it. Because Marvel is turning more internal because it's they work year round now in these franchises. So now they have an internal costume department. So they usually, when they're too full, they reach out to different companies, mine being one, for a character or two. So that one, they thought it would be a good fit for my studio to take that character. Happy, because when I saw the concept that Ryan Meyerding had drawn, it was just like, this is going to be iconic. I really want to be involved in it. And it worked out numbers-wise, time-wise, so we were able to do it. And yeah, I put a lot into that suit. I haven't seen it yet. Hope to see it very soon.
I saw it over the weekend.
I heard
it was
awesome. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the suit in particular was similar to other methodologies we've used, but what I did two new things, which I try to push when I can. I sometimes don't have the money or time, but this one I pushed. One was the muscle suit. For the most part, muscle suits are the same. They're based like a spandex structure, and then you put muscles on top. You glue them down. It's been the same for a long time. But there was something Rick Baker and other people have done in the past where they do these gorilla suits where there's muscles slide and move. And I remember seeing that when I was in the studio years ago in Harry and the Hendersons, seeing the suits, and I thought they were amazing. And I've always tried to find a place where I could use some of that technology. And on Panther, I ended up doing it. So we ended up making a lot of that for the shoulder and back muscles. So when he actually throws, I don't know if they used it in the film, but when he was in my studio moving, I threw a punch or went over the shoulder, you see the shoulder blade muscles scissor and move, and you see movement. One, it allows more freedom of movement, so he's not restricted. Two is it transfers it looks like muscles moving instead of just I call them a dumb suit. Muscles is usually just bone blocks that move.
Yeah.
This actually has independence and sliding. So when I saw that, it was a really great feeling. So then we skin it with the outer suit, and it just is another level. I hope that you see it. I hope it worked. I know movement's better, but also is going to transfer realism. And the other thing I thought was amazing is the helmet. Usually, like on our shop, we'll do 3D. We do a lot of 3D modeling, like other studios. We do practical and 3D both. Usually, we'll spend 5 weeks modeling a helmet, give or take. This one we spent 3 months on the model, just the digital model. It was so intense and so many pieces. There's probably 30 different pieces to that helmet. They all break apart, so they're all painted separately.
Wow.
Screens, there's internal fans, there's all sorts of stuff that is super complex. Very proud. When it was done, and that one I was happy to actually hopefully break even. Probably lost money on the helmet, but I didn't care because I knew it was a calling card. It was just an amazing piece.
Now, when you were talking about the muscles and the movement and stuff, do you think that stuff works on like a subconscious level that maybe it doesn't like jump out and hit you like, oh, look at how that stuff moves, but like going back to like the bat cowl turning, like you made a point about that in the tested video.
That's huge. Exactly, absolutely. You see somebody, well, I know on Batman, Rich the Tron, the main stunt guy for Ben, and also it helps Ben, but the Rich who actually did most of the fighting, he said it was one of the most comfortable free range suits he's worn. The cowl as well. He could have these 3 range of movement. So in the film, you don't feel anything stunted. He just moves like crazy. And I think the Panther is probably the same way, where it allows you just that little extra bit of freedom where it just feels more athletic. It just feels more natural. I think all that you do feel, you do see, I think you sense it.
Yeah.
Can you talk about at all how you engineered the cowl to be able to turn? Like, I think what most people are used to seeing is you got a rubber cowl that you pull over your head, and it's just a piece of rubber from the top of your head down to where the emblem is, and it kind of restricts the movement, turning your head left and right. So how did you?
Well, absolutely. It's a little bit of a. I'll try to sew it up so it don't want to bore you.
No. People like the technical.
They
stuff,
like to talk shop.
Crazy.
They like the shop.
I need a little bit of background. So this is my 4th Batman. So I did, the early ones, and then it went to England, which is great. The Christopher Nolans, I thought they did a great job at the tech. So I think it was I don't know which one it was. I remember seeing one where they now put a hat on him and segmented his neck, and I thought to me that's not Batman. So I saw it. I kind of understood why they did it, so he could have more mobility, but it wasn't Batman. It was like a cheat or a whatever you want to call it, a solution, cheat, compromise, whatever you want to call it. To me, it was like compromise. So the good films though. So in print, a few hours later, I saw somebody wrote from England or somewhere, I don't know the name, but they were like very proud of themselves how they cured this thing where Batman could never move his head, and now they figured it out. So that kind of bugged me because when I worked on earlier ones, I did the exact same thing. I cut the top off and made a different neck, but I thought it was too much of a compromise. It broke the line. It wasn't Batman. So I just abandoned it. It was like 12 years ago. So when they now did it and thought they were very proud that they figured it out, I was like, please. I mean, they're good. Obviously, they ruled the world at some point, the English, but they didn't solve the cowl. So I was like, if I ever have an opportunity, I am going to figure this out. So anyways, a year or two passed, whatever it was, I get a phone call from Wilkinson, the designer, and he just landed the job, asked me if I wanted to be involved. I was like, yes. So I said, and I remember voicing it. My first thought out of my mouth or head was, I'm going to figure out this cowl. He's going to be able to turn his head. And he was like, yeah, he should. He's great. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's never been done, and I'm going to do it. We're going to do this thing. So obviously I'm going to make the suit as the best I can, but he will turn his head. So it's my personal mission. So then I started figuring out what couldn't I figure out before, what's new, what have I forgotten, and it boils down to this. So the cowl, to have the right look, the thickest point is on the neck here because the ears have to be kind of covered. So you have a lot of rubber on the sides of the head. So that becomes the strongest link, your neck. So you have thin rubber over your face and you attach it to the body. As you turn, it wants to just do this. Your head just kind of moves
push on
inside.
your nose.
So you have, it's the strongest point. And you need that to be the weakest link to make it work. So then I thought, oh, okay, well, that's simple. I mean, the idea of it. So if I lock the cowl to your head, which usually is just a pullover head.
Yeah.
So if I make a skull cap like on a mask or a puppet,
yeah,
you make a skull cap perfectly fit to the head. You wrench it, tighten it to their head. Now you fix the cowl to that. You lock the bottom down. Now you have two solid points, and then you twist. You got that. Now I introduce now a whole matrix of pockets and collapsing points internally you don't see. So when you twist, the whole thing buckles, but buckles right. So you don't want to just
buckles
fold
for the anatomy so that it
exactly. So it looks like muscles collapsing, turning. Or what you want to do, you don't want to notice anything. You just want to see it move.
Yeah.
And not think about it. And so that was then this journey of about 2-3 months of bulking up cores, doing quick sculpts, pulling foam, twisting it. Eventually, we got the first prototype. Went to Ben's house, threw it over his head, held it down. And I asked him, can you turn your head for me? And he, did this. I said, turn the other way. He did that. And everything moved. Not perfect, but pretty. I was like, got it. I'm like, holy crap, we did it. And he was like, it's pretty tough, though. I'm like, whatever. You're turning your head. You have no idea what this is. Like, they were like, they just assume it works. Like, no, this is actually hard to do. But at that point, then I work with my crew to take it home. I think Jim McLaughlin was the major player. Freitas, amazing. He did a lot of work on the molds to get it work. Those two, there's multiple people. Those are the two huge players to then take it to finish.
Yeah, I've been bugging Rob Freitas to see what that mold looks like, and he won't show me.
No. And there's sliding plates. There's a lot. So it's really amazing how much you don't see internally to make it look like you don't think about it anymore. You can actually turn, fight. You don't even think about it, which was my goal.
Well, there's a whole artwork to the technical end that people like Rob and Jim do. Like that, I love that stuff. Yeah,
he came in to help me out with because there's if you remove one of those players, it doesn't work. It's everybody was involved. It's an amazing feat.
So you have a pretty strong crew at the shop. A lot of guys that.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. So I have core people that are with me, and then specialty people like Rob can come in, to pinch hit, kind of just come in. I have a lot of friends from the past who come in and can help out when, their specialties. Everybody has their specialties. Yeah.
What's been your favorite thing to work on so far? You have a pretty long career. What has been your absolute favorite thing to work on?
I don't know. I should think about this answer because I get asked it once in a while, and I still don't have an answer. I really do when I get involved in something. We'll say the Panthers recent. I guess I really throw myself in, and when I'm done, I'm so satisfied. But same thing with Batman. When that was finished, I was super satisfied. I don't know that I have a favorite. They're all, personal to me. Sometimes I'll get something, well, I'm not that interested in that one, but there's so many that I just are personal. The X-Men suits, when I got to do those, was an amazing thing for me to hit. Catwoman still sits in my mind from way back in the day, and the new ones, I don't know. I don't know that I have a favorite.
Well, the Black Panther suit, it's funny you should mention, getting back to that for just a second.
Did you watch it, Len?
I saw it twice.
Oh, jeez.
I saw it twice. And so the second time I was actually paying a lot of it more attention to the movie and some of the special effects and things like that. And the one thing I did notice, just getting back to the Black Panther for a second, I did notice that the suit, the muscles in the suit were really on point. It's funny because the actor Chadwick Boseman, he looked a little bit thin, but when he got into that suit, it was like completely bulked up. And I thought it's funny you brought that up because I was going to ask, like, was that like how much of it was Chadwick and how much of it was your suit? Now I think you've answered that question. Is that the suit had this really great musculature underneath it.
Yeah, I would take back 99% of superheroes wear muscle suits, no matter how fit you are. You know, I always go back to Chris Evans because he's a specimen. Chris Evans is amazing physique, but he wears a muscle suit just because you need that extra enhancement to make you look. It's just different, or
to make the cloth and the fabrics all lay in a certain way.
No matter how big you are, as soon as you put clothes on, you soften. So when you have a muscle suit, it doesn't ever relax. It keeps that edge, so you have that other feel. So even if it's thin, thick, every superhero pretty much wears a muscle suit, and it's just to give you that sense of just special feeling. No matter who, but Chadwick, he's fit, great physique, but we enhanced him for sure.
So talking about the Captain America thing, you can't remember which Captain America helmet you worked on. That's always a really funny thing, how they'll take a costume and give it to one shop, and somebody will knock it out of the park, and then they'll give it to another shop, and it'll be like, it's all right. And then things keep bouncing around. Why don't they kind of keep it at the same shop?
I think, good and bad. I mean, to me, because the different designers will be attached or producers, and they'll have their favorites. So there's loyalty, which I think is good. It's good. When I have somebody who's loyalty to me, they'll bring it back to me. And if another designer is loyal to a different studio, so they'll take it to them. So I guess it's just kind of works that way. I'm grateful that I'm able to still get a piece to keep going, because it gets thin at times. The business is up and down. But last year we did, I think, 16 different costumes. Most of them were X-Men. Louise Mengerbach is super. I'm a great, love her. We work really well together. She's an amazing designer, and so she's super loyal, as I am to her.
And this is for Age of Apocalypse you're talking about?
Yeah. So we did every costume except for Apocalypse. So everything other than Apocalypse, my studio worked on, which, maybe not every, but most.
Yeah, you didn't do Beast either, I don't think.
No,
right?
no. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So there was a ton of them we did this year. So that was maybe 12, 15 costumes. This year we're doing 1.5. So it changed. This year completely shrunk down a bit. So it varies.
Years early. Come on.
What's that?
Years early. Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff could pop.
Yeah, there's stuff.
Maybe get another crack at Silver Surfer when they.
That would be cool.
I loved the Silver Surfer you did. You worked on that over at Spectral?
Yeah, for Mike. Yeah.
I like you have this style about faces, the way that you get the arch of the brow and the nose. There's just
there's kind of
it's a stylistic thing.
Yeah, I think it's you like it, don't like it, but it's like a musician. You write a song, you can tell it's that style. So I think I do have that. So people tell me no matter what they see my fine art or my movie stuff, there's something about it that feels like me, which is good.
I think I don't
have a problem with that.
It's a great little style to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that one was personal to me for whatever reason. I really enjoyed working on it, loved working on it. And I almost got kicked off the project. It was kind of funny to me. Mike hired me to do it. I said, love to be involved. So I ended up sculpting him a cat. Studio came in, didn't get it. It was just beautiful, simple, all it needed to be.
Oh, that's what Silver Surfer is.
Yeah, iconic. Just push the muscles a little bit. They didn't get it. They were like, well, we're going to take a break for a while. Code, you're fired. So I was sent home for a few weeks. I'm like, whatever. So they brought another artist in, small town, so I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
They sculpted a new version, and then that went south, or they didn't quite get it either. So they brought me back in. I'm like, oh, okay, I see. So I said, just trust me. So we ended up finally molding casket, painting it silver, and they're like, oh, it's amazing. And all of a sudden it was a great idea. It was their idea. I'm like, sure. So anyways, that was what we ended up doing for the suit. So we did a full prosthetic, head to toe makeup.
Yeah.
And what's funny to me is the studio was, for some reason, really wanted to push digital, or the idea was digital. So they told everybody it was a fully digital suit. But
I think there's a happy medium, even the vision and
they put a sheen on it.
It's
I know they put a sheen on it, maybe changed some stuff.
Yeah.
But he wore a suit the entire film. Doug told me himself at one point they came to him on set and said, hey, can you put this green thing on and pose? He's like, what for? He's like, he knew what they were trying to do. They were trying to fake this. Like, what? I'm not wearing this ever. I'm wearing this makeup the whole film. Like, yeah, but he's like, no. He wouldn't do it.
So they were trying to set him up to
show the world that it was all digital, because they wanted to show that they were ahead of it doing all digital, but it wasn't. And he said he refused. So they got another actor, put a green hood over it so they couldn't tell it was, and shot it for shots that it It was a strange.
Wow, that's so weird.
Yeah, it was very strange.
It's always weird, like when films will promote things are like super digital, super practical. Like I remember, the George Lucas Star Wars is the crappy 1, 2, and 3s. They promoted all this digital stuff, but they actually had more miniatures on that show than have ever been on any film. And now they're promoting all this practical stuff. There's more digital stuff in the new films than there's ever been. Like, they just kind of pick and choose what they want to market. And it's kind of a stinker sometimes to the people that get shafted.
Yeah. Yeah, He was like, wait a minute, I wore this thing the whole time, and you're saying it's all digital. And of course, I helped build the suit, and I was like, really? So I had nothing to do with it? It's very strange.
Well, it was awesome, and I hope that when they start, getting the what's it called? The brain fart. What's the movie that they're coming up to?
I'm not sure.
Which company?
Thing with the Marvel. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Infinity Gauntlet.
Infinity War. Yeah, I'm sure that when they get, everybody's yelling at me right now. Infinity Wars. When they get to Infinity Wars, like Silver Surfer is a huge part of that storyline. It's like him and Doctor Strange, like they're kind of the catalyst in Infinity Wars. You have to get Silver Surfer back. Like, how are they going to work around that?
I don't know who's directing it, I guess, or who.
Oh, the Russo brothers are directing it again.
Oh,
Infinities?
Yep.
They're doing both of them?
Yes, they are.
So I'm pretty sure I won't be involved, but that's cool.
Oh,
great. They have another, they have other people they like. What are you going to do?
Well, that's a stinker.
That stinks. Well, let's hope you are, because it's, I'd love to see your work on screen again. That would be awesome. I mean, just like some iterations and some new things. I saw on your Instagram, I started following you. You have this, what looked like a makeup test of Thanos, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a thing I did 8 years ago, but I thought, let me just throw it up, because I was working on, see, I'm even worse. I don't remember which film it was.
Yeah.
I was working on a film. And the Thanos was going to be a tag at the end of the film, Avengers, I think, or something.
Yeah,
that was the tag at the very end of Avengers.
So I was like, I really love to do this makeup. And Marvel was like, yeah, we have another company. And I was like, I really want to do this. And finally I just said, well, how about if I do it for free? And if it works, you guys use it. If it works, maybe you remember me for the next one. And they're like, free? That sounds pretty good. So I did the makeup for free. And they used it in the end of the film for that little tag. And they changed it. They digitized it a little bit, which kind of bummed me out, because I think it was pretty strong the way I did it. And then they ended up just doing total digital for the next time. And I think it was
Guardians. Yeah.
Guardians
so
of the
just digitally did it. Looks similar to my makeup, but just digital.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought nobody's really seen this. So I thought, let me just show people what the actual makeup test was. So that's what that was for, just to show.
And that's kind of what you did with your Apocalypse, because you didn't get Apocalypse and Age of Apocalypse. You kind of did your own little, like, hey, this was my idea.
Yeah, that was just, I had a little artistic moment. I was up for it. I was close, but then I lost it. So then it just went away. So at one point, the image came out, like, what would I have done? So then I had his life cast. So I just sculpted that on top of Oscar's face, and I just felt like I just need to get this out of my system. So I just ran it through.
Looking through your website, there's tons of maquettes and stuff like that. Like I love, like, I don't want to completely geek out. I love the style of your maquettes and of your, like, fine artwork and stuff like that. Do you find yourself just kind of freestyling on stuff whenever you get that like little tinge, or do you wait for the project to kind of float around, or like, do you have other things that, like?
Yeah, when I was younger, I did a lot of that. Now, time is less. It's more precious, I guess. I have less of it, so now it happens less. Once in a while, I will, but mostly a film has to pay me to do a maquette. For me to do a maquette, it just takes a lot of energy and time.
Has that come because before you were working for other shops and doing like freelance stuff, and now running a shop, you find yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Freelance, and I had time. You work, 8, 10, 12 hours, even is fine. You have weekends, so you were able to do other things. And everybody told me, and I knew it would be true, you start your own business, you don't get much hands-on. I still am in there, but not as much as I used to be. But what I thought, though, my misconception was, I'll start a studio, I'll build it for 5 years, and then I can back up, because I've worked at other shops where the owners are rarely ever there. I'm like, that'll be me. I can build this thing, step back, and have all this time. And now 8, 9 years in, I found out, no, it's not the way it's not my studio. So I'm still every day there, involved in almost every process. So I'm kind of hands-on. So I'm a different kind of shop owner than I was used to. So I guess I'm not able to back up.
Is it that fine line between like just being able to let go and like let the stuff happen at the shop and like wanted to make sure that it's like
I guess, there's some people know how to, I guess it is, I think I know my strengths and weaknesses. And I have an eye, a certain aesthetic, whether it be sculpture, whatever. So I kind of need to see that if my name's going out, my studio name, my name, it has to have a certain feel or look that I want.
Yeah.
So if I watch everything through the studio, and if it feels, I need to have my hand on it. So when I try to let go, things would go in a different direction. Maybe good, maybe not. I just it's not what I would do. So I pull it back. So I know working for me is difficult because it is a lot of it dictated by me. I try to let people be creative in a way, but a lot of it is dictated by my aesthetic. And I found people that are willing to work with me that way, which is not for everybody. It's a very difficult, I think, place to be. And that's also why I don't want to be huge because I can't keep an eye on much more than what I do now. Like some studios are bigger and I don't need to be bigger, don't want to be bigger. I just want a certain aesthetic to come out of my studio. And that means I have to be there watching it.
Now, when you're building and creating all these costumes and stuff, a lot of people think that, like you see these trends with cosplayers and, that kind of stuff. And people just kind of build stuff to fit them. When you're building stuff, you have to think about how this actor is going to pee or how they're going to, get a drink of water or how the wardrobe department is going to be able to clean that costume or maintain that costume. Is that like a whole other universe that like you did or didn't like kind of?
Well, it happened over years. So, I'm aware of all of it now. But yeah, early on, maybe I didn't think about it, but yeah, peeing is important for sure. Cleaning, all those things for sure. And what I find more interesting is how other studios sometimes don't address that. Like there was some costumes that they don't allow. You have to disrobe your entire costume to be able to relieve yourself, which is crazy to me. So that's huge part of it. Like helmets, I call them non-moving targets. To me, we're pretty good at it. Myself and my studio can produce an amazing, fit, finished look. But suits are way more complex because they're moving. So you have to allow for movement. It has to look good. Obviously, standing still has to allow them to move, but everything's going to wrinkle. And they're always surprised when it has to wrinkle. Like, well, that's just what happens to clothes when you move. But you want them to look good when they wrinkle and muscles to look natural. So those are very complex to make a suit look good, move well. That's definitely pretty difficult. And make sure you can pee easily and not show zippers. Yeah.
Is hiding zippers like the hardest thing to figure out? Like where the hell to put it?
It used to be. Now it's fairly, kind of, we got a good system for that.
Gotta find those invisible zippers.
Yeah, invisible zippers.
Here on Creature Geek, we talk a lot about history. Frank and I talk about knowing history, and it's pretty interesting because you've been working for a while where you've sort of forged that history. You've been a part of that history. So I'm just kind of curious as to what are your influences? You said you were a sculptor. What brought you to who are your influences? Who brought you to this point in time?
Yeah, I think I guess early on my brother was a huge comic book fan. He collected. I didn't collect comics, but I was around it. He had them everywhere. He forced me to watch Spider-Man. He woke me up in the morning, like, I don't want to get up. But we watched Spider-Man. I enjoyed it. And I would look at his comics. I had to look at him a certain way, though. He couldn't bend the pages. It was like this. So, but I ate the imagery up. I didn't read them, but I really knew a lot about imagery. Or if it was a cartoon, I'd watch it. So there was that. But my interest was different. I love building forts, like digging tunnels and tree houses and construction. And then my aesthetic was more built by European art, like Renaissance masters. So
that shows in your facial sculpture style,
which is cool because most artists feed from certain wells. Like a lot of the industry people, when I was starting, everybody was Fangoria. I didn't know what that magazine was. I didn't care about it because it was gore. I was into looking at art books, Bernini, Michelangelo, whatever it may be. I just love looking at that work. So that influenced my mind. So when I got my first job on Catwoman, I didn't really have a care or know much about gore, but I knew about, classic. So my aesthetic, I think, I really try to do timeless imagery. So I try to stay away from trends. So when I do whatever it may be, a costume, a character, I try to think of it as a timeless thing. It sounds maybe cheesy, but it's real. So, and I think the test of time has shown that. So you look at Catwoman, she's still amazing today as she was when she was produced years ago. And most of my work, I try to have that thread where I try to just edit out. And you always try to, I think some people have a problem with editing. They just throw everything at it, or the proportion is off. Because if you have especially near a face, a helmet, if you change a line thickness, a 32nd, 16th, you can destroy it. So a helmet will be like a bobblehead. This helmet is overpowering their face. If you get it right, it's just seamless. It works with their anatomy, their proportions. And I think that's what I do very well is find that line of what enhances them, looks good on them. And it could look, it'll still stand now, 10 years from now. It still has a classic look. I think some of the older stuff was like that. Metropolis, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Creature Black Lagoon, amazing. There's certain things like Frankenstein. These things are timeless. They were great at the time, and they still stand. And some of the ones that that are out there that just happened, they're amazing now, and a couple of years will be a little weak.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that answers it, but the idea is my background is more, I fed on classic more than the cultural of whatever it was people are feeding on here. The answers.
Do you think that the technology that's kind of coming out is gonna change the trends of how you build stuff? Like you said that the Black Panther cowl was mostly it was all printed, right? It was all printed and then finished pieces.
Yeah.
Do you think that now that the 3D printing technology is coming up and all these other things, like that's gonna like further affect how you design and build stuff?
Oh yeah, I think it was one of the early Batman films. They scanned. I think it was Mr. Freeze. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger. We flew up to Monterey. They were scanning for the first time. We used to do plaster bandage.
Mm-hmm.
Clooney's body with plaster bandage. It was, and then it started changing to digital, scans. I'm like, oh, and then it was clumsy, rudimentary, but slowly. But now it's happening. It's been happening, and it's very much in, and it just continues to get better, cheaper. Stronger. So early on, like on Tron, we printed all the helmets, but then we had to mold and cast because they were delicate. So now the composites are durable, so you can print and use that print, which is a whole nother thing. And they just keep continuing because it's a huge market. There's so many different ways you can print, so many different materials now. So it just keeps enhancing it, which I think is great.
Do you get a lot of these pieces printed on like FDM printers, or are they on like objets and stuff like that, or is it just a combination of everything?
It's a combination of a lot of things.
Well, like for when you have the finished pieces, like the Panther stuff, like
SLS is the one we use. It's more of a nylon composite. It's rough, very durable, but then my crews, it's amazing. They can make it look perfect. So those are rough, but they're wearable prints. So Snake Eyes, Cobra, Panther. Just so many. Those are straight printed parts that were finished.
And there's no, with all the finishing that you have to do to those pieces, it doesn't make any sense to mold and cast them. I'm like,
the reason the pros and cons is when you mold and cast, there's an expense, but also it's also difficult to get the internals. So now when you print, you can print external, internal. So now you have standoffs for different heads. You have pathways for air. You have magnet mounts. You have battery mounts. So you can now design inside and outside. So when you mold and cast, when you have a shell, now you have to add all those components, which is also very time consuming and also not accurate in a way where you can plug and play. So the Tron helmets, we made almost just shy of 50 helmets, 18 of one, 2 of the other, 6 of this one. So those were all one-offs. So you made a part, you had to fit every visor, you had to fit every piece. So it's very labor intensive. So now we can print the parts. If a part breaks or whatever happens, you print that other part and it'll plug in. It's not a fit and finish thing. It's just print, and it saves a lot of time, which is huge, and it's accurate. You can just, it's like a model kit or a production part. It's a lot of setup though, so you're heavy on the front end, but then it saves a lot on the back end. Before you're lighter, but then it's hard on the back end. So it doesn't always make sense, but now it does quite a bit. When we're making 2 or 3 helmets, it doesn't make any sense to mold and cast.
Yeah.
But it's expensive. So if a film can't afford it, I mean, that's another thing. To print a helmet anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 just for your raw print, and then you have to then work on that. It's a lot of money then to take it to finish. So
the labor on top of that, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, not have labor.
Oh yeah. That's my least favorite day is when I have to cut payroll checks here.
Oh yeah.
Just watch the bank account empty on that day.
Everyone else is happy. Yeah.
I know there's a lot that you can't talk about, but is there anything that you can talk about as far as what's coming up? What's coming up for Ironhead?
Well, we've fortunately we got involved in the next Spider-Man, I guess standalone.
Nice.
So we're, again, Marvel's doing most of it internally, like the suits. And they're just asking us for help on little things like muscle suits, skull caps, like internal structures. So that's great. It's a great little job. So excited to be part of it because I'm sure it's going to be a great film.
Spider-Man kind of stole the show in Civil War.
Yeah,
it was so much fun.
Yeah,
did you see it yet?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
No.
I'll see it soon.
Well, you guys did get a credit in this one.
Yes, you did.
Stupid Batman.
That's what I've heard. That's great. It's surprising when it happens, but that's great.
Yeah, that was the rant that I kicked off about, is not seeing your guys' name in the credit. Yours or Film Illusions on Batman vs. Superman. The people that made the Batman and the Superman costumes don't get credits, but some random people that don't do anything on the show
boggles my mind. Like early on, it happened on Batman Returns. The one I did, Batman and Catwoman. I sat in Grumman's Chinese. Huge high. It was like 27 years old, whatever it was. Like, you got to be kidding me. It's amazing. Credits roll. Name nowhere. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Really? It's on the posters. It's on the film, and I don't get credit. I'm like, that's crazy. So I went back. I ranted. They're like, oh, sorry, it's a mishap. So the next one, I did the entire bat suit. I'm like, well, of course I'm going to get credit. Credits roll. Name's not on the film. I'm like, you have to be kidding me.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, so then the next film, I said, well, you'll definitely get credit.
It's like a Batman's curse.
And then for the next one, I got credit, the worst Batman film on the planet. It's like, well, thanks for this one. And then through time, it's hit and miss. Most of the time I don't get it. And I'm always fine with it. I'm like, well, as long as I'm working, that's my pay, I guess. And I'll sit in the back. But for some reason, Batman was personal because of what I brought to it. Obviously, I'm not the designer, but I do take those designs and bring them to life. Help bring them to life. And what I added to the cowl, to so much of it, my studio and myself were a huge part of that for a year plus. Mm-hmm. So I thought we would deserve a nod.
Was that like you just forget about adding that into the contract, or do you think it was an oversight on the...
It's not in my contract.
You got to put that clause in the contract. I'll send you a clause. Is what I use. It's great.
I think I'll start doing that. I guess I was more of the honor system because I would figure I would stand up for my crew, which I took an ad out. I figured my crew wouldn't get credit. I thought a studio at least, or myself. So I took an ad out in Cinefx, paid the money, full page.
Oh yeah,
gave everybody credit. At least everybody get credit somewhere. And then when I saw a film, nobody got credit. I'm like, really? Oh. So somebody obviously didn't go to bat for me. So it's okay. I guess I got to start pushing on the contract.
Just put it in the contract.
Well, you see, that's why Tested and CreatureGeek, we're going to be pushing your name out there. Everyone's going to know who you are.
So cool. I had no idea what the Firestorm would be. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but obviously I signed up for it. You said it's almost $1 million now.
Don't ever read any of the comments.
I'm trying not to
stay away from the internet.
Yeah, don't read it.
Yeah,
I don't do that. Somebody said either your head's going to explode because you're going to get so full of yourself, or you're going to be depressed.
Is that what Chris Alexander told you?
Yeah,
that's because I texted him that.
Good deal.
That's because somebody told me that a long time ago. Never read the comments on the internet. Every once in a while, I'll interact, but you have to like learn how to grow a really thick skin and just not look at any of it. Like the only things that I'll kind of chip in and answer are if people are asking technical questions. Like if I put up a video and they're like, oh, I wonder what kind of rubber that was that he used, or what kind of, I'll chime in. But when it comes to like love you, hate you, forget it. stay away.
It looks to me more like the rag. What's happening is like the rag mag. You go and check out, and somebody's divorced or pregnant, or just ugly stories. It's usually what I think that's what's happening too. A lot of people are taking that story and twisting it. Like there's stories coming out like I've designed everything. I'm like I'm not saying that. Like it's like one came out that I designed Iron Man. Tron. I mean I never worked on Iron Man. I didn't design these films. I built them. So it's like it's getting out of control. I don't know what to say. I can't.
You can't ever fight it. It's the internet. Like whatever. So if there's anything you want to clear up right now, we got it. You got everybody's ears.
That's right.
Now, I think so far we're doing a good job. I just want to make sure I'm clear that
tell Fat User 78 you can stuff it.
I
don't know. I'm just making up a fake internet person
got
name.
it. But no, I mean for sure I worked for, like you mentioned earlier, like designers, Colleen Atwood, Bob Ringwood, James Atchison, Michael Wilkinson, Louise Minglock. There's so many amazing.
Jim Tyson, Jay Tizza.
Jim Tyson's amazing.
I wonder if he ever got his patio furniture. Have you heard that story?
Yes. I've heard. Some of my greatest moments are just hanging out with him on set. You can tell stories.
I worked on Chronicles of Riddick with him, and I was up in Vancouver for a couple of months or whatever. And so this is Jim Tyson's patio furniture story. So he's got a bunch of producers or whatever, and they're in the warehouse where they're building all the costumes and everything. There's racks of materials and clothes and wardrobe and all this stuff. And like, do you need this stuff? Do you need that stuff? Do you really need this? And he goes, no, I don't need this. You need this. I need new patio furniture.
Oh yeah, he's notorious for telling people, just telling them what they, or slugging people.
Really? I haven't heard that one.
He told me a story about it was Hoffa. They had a huge, they needed people, so they just went to bar, it went everywhere just to get these gnarly people up.
Yeah.
So they had a bleachers full of these derelicts and normal people, whatever, just all kinds of people. And he said, everybody come down, orderly fashion, one by one, and we'll dress you. They had a crowd scenes for Hoffa. So this one guy just starts coming at him, and he's like, stay where you are. And he just kept coming. Stay. And the guy just wouldn't stop and just went right up to him. Didn't know what to expect, so he just had his walkie-talkie and just clocked him, knocked him out. But, just sometimes you just got to...
Did he ever find out what that guy wanted?
No.
He wanted to rumble.
I'm not sure. I guess he didn't want to find out. He just said, you got to stop.
Yeah, Jim's cool. It's always like being on set is kind of one of those things where like it's the most boring thing in the whole entire universe, but you make such interesting friends and interesting acquaintances.
Well, Jim is like the Forrest Gump of the film industry. He's been everywhere, knows everybody. You see all these moments in time like he was there. He did that. I'm like, holy crap. 48 Hours or whatever that movie was, Eddie Murphy. It was his jacket he wore.
Oh, really?
Like, what? And then, I mean, insane stories about so many things. Like, you could tell, go on for days. He's very entertaining. He's like old school. He's like an amazing guy. Fortunate when I get to work with him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, Jim's cool.
So we're almost at the end of our time with you, and we'd love to have you back at any time you want to come back. You become one of our regulars, like Shannon or Steve.
Yeah, you just need to tell crazy stories like Shannon.
That's right. You have to write the book, and then you can read the book.
You got to start thinking of good stories.
There's some ones out there. It's got to jog my memory. Yeah.
But we always ask this question every guest. It's our last question. Is words of wisdom, a piece of advice you can give to a young pro getting started in the industry. What would you say to them?
I would say obviously you have to be passionate about what you want to do, and you can't really think about the money. I think that's one of the mistakes, or when people think, like, they work for me sometimes, and they it's that fast food mentality or microwave mentality where they want everything quicker, faster. So they want to move to the top so fast. I think that's a mistake. Like when I started, I knew I wasn't there yet. So I would be willing, and not that you need to work for free, but what I'm saying is you got to work extra to stand out. So if I couldn't do what the guy next to me could do in 8 hours, I would stay on my own time to make sure everything I did shined. It doesn't matter how long it took you, if it was quick or short, if the work suffers. At the end of the day, they're going to remember if it's good or bad. Mm-hmm. So it's great if it's fast, but more importantly is what you deliver, because that's your calling card, that's your name, that's your reputation. So more importantly than the money is what you produce, the quality. So my career has always been that. I'd rather lose money, not make money, than produce something substandard, because you can always have excuses. Well, I didn't have enough time, there wasn't enough money. whatever. This is now in print for everybody to see for all time. So the only thing that's important is that legacy you leave, which is your work.
All right.
Go the extra mile is what you're saying.
Oh yeah.
Go the extra mile. Jose Fernandez from Ironhead Studios. He's at, what is it? At Ironhead. Where are you on Twitter? Ironhead Studios. Is that what it is?
Gosh.
We'll have to. We'll post it in the show notes or something like that. It's all. You guys just kind of exploded into the social media scene the past month or
I just
so,
started getting involved. I figure I had to get on board. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know that. Right.
That's all right. Just search at Ironhead.
I'll text Chris and I'll find out all that stuff.
All
exactly.
Right. Thanks, you guys.
And then do you have the list of people in front of you?
I got the Patreon list.
Okay, go ahead. We have a long list. We got a lot of people.
Yeah, everybody's been helping us out, and it's been. Oh, come on, pull up. My computer's being. I actually have something in front of me on the computer. Okay. It's
at the $15 reward level.
Let's see. I gotta fix this.
So what's this? You guys, what are you guys looking at?
We do this thing called Patreon where the stupid thing won't.
Here, you want me to read them?
Okay, no. I found it. So we have a Patreon page. So if people like the podcast, they can chip in some money. It's kind of like a tip jar. We're going to still do the podcast whether they give us money or not.
Got it.
So if they give us money at the $15 level, which is Donato Sinico, Charles Babbage, Russell Young, Brian Warner, Raymond Stanek, Sarah Thompson, Gareth Irwin, Ricardo Murillo, Simon Hollick, Gerald Libby, Mark Sesman. They get to hear me rattle off their name really quick.
Cool.
And Kyle Spolstra.
I don't see that one.
Yeah, he's up there.
It's not on my list. Are you looking at the new one?
Yeah, I'm looking at the new one.
No, this is
all right. Well, cool.
And then there's the Jason Moore, Matthew Pickerver, and Eric Seglum that are our co-executive producer. Badasses.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
And thank you so much, Jose, for being on the show. If you'd like to find more about Ironhead, go to Ironhead Studios or ironheadstudios.com. If you want to find more about Frank or I, frankippolito.com or lenperalta.com. We are also those names on Twitter. A big thanks to Tested for giving us a home here. And you can also find us at creature-geek.com. That's our website. And our Patreon is patreon.com/CreatureGeek. Big thanks to Jose for being on the show. And we will see you on the next episode of Creature Geek coming up very soon. Take care, everybody.